All right, my friends. Welcome back to this Lioness Sound Bite. In this Lioness Sound Bite, I am going to be talking about your chapter 1 versus someone else's chapter 20. What do I mean by that? Well, in today's world, on the socials, it is so easy to compare where you're at to someone else's journey. And I use this analogy in my Project Lioness program. When we're walking through the jungle, and you're on a safari or you're hiring a tour guide. You know, my husband and I are going to the Amazon rainforest this December, depending on when you're listening to this. And we've hired people to help us through the jungle because we've never been there. And it can be really easy to compare like your initial steps into the jungle versus someone who's walked through the jungle hundreds of times, and they know exactly what turns to make, they know where the shortcuts are, and they know what it's like to move through the density of the jungle. And in our world, it's very common to compare our chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20, where we think that we should be further along than what we actually are. And when we try to jump to chapter 20 versus chapter 1 and enjoying the foundations and the medicine of chapter 1, we lose the entire plot. Like we forget that each chapter of our life, each stage, each phase has medicine, has beauty, has wisdom. And in today's age, it's so common to like biohack our way and quantum leap and make things go faster. And we fail to recognize that, while yes, 5-dimensional living is really cool, 3-dimensional living is also reality. Like we live in a body, we are a spirit, we have quantum experiences, but we also live in a body, we have a human experience, and we have biology. And biology doesn't always want to move at the pace of quantum. And so when you can honor your chapter 1, realizing that it is the foundation of so many lessons to build, then you can really honor where you're at. You know, one of my mentors, Dr. Donnie Epstein, the founder of Network Spinal, says, if you're not in the stage you love, learn to love the stage you're in. And I would say that is very true in business. So many business owners want to go to the next level, quantum leap, And I think that's great. And I talk about doing that. Like you can absolutely quantum leap, but you have to also love where you're at. You cannot transcend that which you haven't loved. And so if you try to quantum leap because you hate where you're at and you don't get the lesson and the wisdom and learn to love it, then you just carry that baggage into the next timeline, into the next chapter, into the next trip. Versus, okay, what is this chapter? What is this chapter 1 teaching me right now? And this would be great homework for y'all, since this is a Lioness Sound Bite. It's going to be a little bit shorter. This would be a really great homework for you is, what is the lesson that I'm getting? What is this chapter teaching me? Rather than judging it, hating it, trying to get out of it, you're here for a reason. I don't necessarily know what that reason is, and I know it's uncomfortable and it kind of sucks, but like, you're here. And the universe doesn't give you what you're not ready for. So why are you here? What are you gaining? What are you learning? What is this moment? What are these challenges teaching you? And if you struggle with that way of thinking, then you're going to definitely want to stay in alignment and in tune with my podcast, because I'm all about not changing who you are, but loving who you are and teaching you how to think and move differently. Teaching you how to recode your biology and your brain that helps you work with things rather than just running away from challenges. Because what you run from, you run into. Think about it. Like the things that you were dealing with years ago, unless you really saw the other side and you learned to love that chapter of your life, chances are you're kind of still dealing with it, right? Or maybe it's not front and center, it's kind of in the background. Really think about that for a second. The things that you are running from, you keep running into. And have you ever considered why that is? That maybe, just maybe, if you stop running for a moment through the jungle, and you turned around and you took a breath and you faced that thing and you realized there's something here for me. I wonder what it would teach you. I wonder how the rest of your journey through the jungle would shift. And we've all been with those people who are on hikes and all they want to do is get to the top. And then they like can't stay at the top and enjoy it. They're like, on to the next hike, right? And it's just like, be present. You got one life. Be present. So your chapter 1 is not someone's chapter 20. And I shared a post on Instagram the other day about what some people see in my world right now, because we've had a lot of growth and I'm so grateful. We've also had a lot of challenges. And I was very real. I said, here's what you see and here's what you don't see. And when you don't actually see the full picture, you fall into this trap of comparison in which you judge yourself. And when you judge yourself, your nervous system is in this state of protection. And then from there, you don't get anything created. You don't move with power. You move out of fear. You move out of desperation. And then you'll blame it on external things rather than realizing the source of that pattern started from within. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, go back to my last episode where I talk about the 4 feedback loops of intuition and the difference between fear and intuition. So I want to share with you, if you're listening to this and maybe you've had moments where you're comparing yourself to mentors, you're comparing yourself to, me probably, because let's be real, I have done the same thing to my mentors where I'm like, oh, why am I not further along, right? And then I look at 10 years ago, that 10 years ago Mel would be like, oh my God, what you're experiencing now is fucking amazing. So something that I like to practice that I want to offer to those of you who are you're in your chapter 1, or maybe you're in your chapter 20 and there's a chapter 100, which by the way, there is no end. There's chapter infinity. And I think when you can realize that, and that this is an infinite game, you can just enjoy where you're at. And the brain will want to go faster because we're seekers and it's part of our biology to chase things and run away from things. But when you can catch yourself and have the power of self-awareness, which is one of the greatest, most invaluable skills that you can learn is self-awareness, you can enjoy the journey and just keep building on what inspires you. And you can be inspired by your chapter 1 and also not judge yourself when you're kind of in this mode of seeing someone else's chapter 20. And this was a big wound for me in entrepreneurship because I chose to surround myself with people who were in their chapter 20 or 30 and I'm in chapter 1 and I'm like, oh my gosh, why am I not there yet? And they're like, Mel, you have foundation to build. And there's a beauty in moving through growth. There's a beauty in entrepreneurial maturity that doesn't come through going fast. It's like child development. You don't go from flying out the womb to walking. And business is no different. Business requires maturity. And some people's timelines do look different, but you don't always see the behind the scenes where maybe they're choosing challenges more often. They're choosing to go on hikes more often. And what's really happening is that they choose to get the lesson from that hike. And I know I'm using the metaphor, but hopefully you're following what I'm saying. When you can get the lesson from the challenge and alchemize it into wholeness, that's actually how you quantum leap. And like I said in my last episode, I'm going to do a whole nother podcast on, actually not even a podcast, a training in my paid programs about the truth behind quantum leaping that not a lot of people talk about. So I digress. When you can really love and get the medicine of the chapter you're in and ask, what is this teaching me? You realize that everyone has a chapter 1. And I love that, maybe it's me, maybe it's people I'm following. I love that more people are talking about hey, you saw this, but you didn't see this. And I love that people, at least it could be in my world, my bubble of abundance. It could be that I am following people where I'm choosing people who talk about the real shit in business. The moments where your income fluctuates, the moments where the clients leave, the moments where the clients don't pay on time, the moments where you have to fire people, the moments where you have to hire people and then fire them, the moments where COVID happens, the moments where there's economic unrest and you are still running a business. That's the shit that people need to talk about, in my opinion. And that's the reality behind the scenes. So choose your challenges. Know that as you enter the business world and you grow, you're going to just face more challenges. There's going to be snakes in the jungle. There's going to be jaguars in the jungle. And the more that you just walk the path, the more you're going to know how to navigate it. And that's what I talk about in emotional and entrepreneurial agility and emotional and entrepreneurial maturity is when you try to go so fast, you miss the lessons along the way. But when you can really honor your chapter 1, honor your chapter 2, honor your chapter 3, what happens is you build a level of legacy. You build a level of trust and you build a level of authority because you haven't just read it in a book and AI didn't fucking teach you it. And you're not just repeating what AI is telling you. You should say you actually have lived experience and that is embodied. That is why so many people hire me, because I'm real about the actual physical lessons that I got, because it's lived in my reality. I didn't just learn this from a book. I actually fucking lived it. And your lived curriculum is your greatest asset when you can actually learn to flip it into your greatest asset. So when you can actually walk through life and get the maturity from each chapter, yes, it may take longer than your ego wants, because the universe is protecting you. The universe doesn't give you what you want. It gives you who you are. And the universe won't give you what you can't handle. So the more that you can expand your capacity and get the lesson from the challenge, that's actually how you quantum leap, and where you can double, triple, 5x your practice, your business in a shorter amount of time, because you're widening your capacity for that next level because you chose to look at the lesson from the experience rather than trying to escape it. So that's one model that I use. That's one methodology, is looking at the flip side and the paradox of the experience and looking at, what is this actually teaching me? What am I gaining from this? And I know there's Hermetic philosophy here and a lot of different like psychological, psychosomatic trainings woven within that methodology. But that is one methodology I really like to use, is instead of trying to escape where you're at, how can you learn to embrace it? And in that love and embrace is actually how you transcend and actually how you quantum leap. So if you're one of my clients in my paid programs, stay tuned, because I'm going to be dropping a training on that very, very soon, on the truth behind quantum leaping and how to actually do it. That's based in physics. Number 2, when it comes to dissolving the comparison trap of chapter 1 versus chapter 20, I also like to remember, where was my chapter 1? And in my chapter 20, I'm just using 20 as an example. In my chapter 20, I'll look back at Mel from chapter 1 and have a conversation with her. And this is very similar to maybe if some of you know internal family systems, parts work. I'll actually say, hey, look at how far you've come. Because the part of you that's afraid, that's judging, that's resentful, that wants to run away, that's just a younger part of you, or a more fearful part of you that's trying to like run the show and become the DJ of the party. So this is what's called self-containment or self-parenting. And I teach this in my Inspire Method facilitator work. When you can be your own container and be your own mom and your own dad, especially those of you maybe you didn't have as much presence in that form growing up in your biological family, we have to learn. Otherwise, we never grow up and develop the entrepreneurial and emotional maturity and agility that's needed to build things that really make a difference on the planet and be the leader, be the embodied leader you want to be. So I'll say, I'll talk to her. I'll talk to Mel from chapter 1 and say, wow, like I want you to know that it just keeps getting better. And it's going to be hard. And I want you to know how far we've come. Let me share with you some really beautiful things that have happened. And a practice that I like when I'm having this conversation with my little younger, more fearful self, the part of me that judges myself, I'll actually write down physical evidence of things that have happened in the material world. Whether it's getting invited to speak in Italy, getting invited to be a facilitator at a paid retreat where I was paid to facilitate at this beautiful center in Mexico. I'll actually have moments where I pause and I write down the things that have happened that remind me of like, holy shit, I'm actually on chapter infinity. Look at how far I've come. And so often when you're so busy comparing your chapter 1 with someone else's chapter 20, you forget your own journey. And you put yourself in this box, you put yourself in this pit, and you're putting them on this big pedestal, and you don't actually realize the gifts and the brilliance of you in your own journey. And when you can flip that and say, wait a second, where are my gifts? Where are my lessons? Look at how far I've come. You can increase your self-value. You increase your self-worth. And when you have higher self-worth, you increase your net worth. And my friends, some of you on this Lioness Sound Bite are going to take this and you're going to be like, hell yeah. And you're going to start to apply it. And some of you are just going to hear this and be like, that's nice, and move on. And I want to offer you, although this sounds simple, it doesn't mean it's easy. And the people in my world where they actually do the homework that I give them like this, which I want to give you some of what I teach my paid clients that I actually teach them that turn into results, life-changing experiences. When you actually take it and apply it, that's where your inner work lies. It's not going to be in chasing more things. It's actually sitting down with your own consciousness, your own mind, and shifting your inner world to tap back into that high level self-worth, that high value person, and that identity that's been inside you this entire time. So again, one, where are you comparing? What are the lessons of the chapter that you're in? Because you're building entrepreneurial and emotional agility and maturity. And people, y'all, they pay for people who have lived experiences, because the difference between you and AI is that you actually have a lived human experience and AI has never lived it. I know it's like drawing from other people's experiences and large language models, but you're still a human and you have a lived biological experience that you can say, hey, I walked through the jungle and here's the challenges I experienced. And I want to tell you how I turned my mess and overcame my mess and turned it in my message. I want to teach you how to do the same thing. Here, like, right, that's just one example of what you can do, of how to turn your lived curriculum into your greatest asset. And you have a methodology inside of you. You have a brand inside of you. I'm speaking to you entrepreneurs right now. I'm speaking to you founders. So wherever your shame exists, that's where your superpower exists. And if you're like, hey, Mel, how do I do that? Like, teach me the ways, teach me the Jedi way. Then you're definitely going to want to join my 30-day $1 million experience, $1 million nervous system experience happening in October. There's so many of you amazing souls already signing up. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I need to take a sip of water. So if you're ready to really like own your chapter 1 so you can expand into your own chapter infinity and like write your book and be the author of your reality, then this experience is for you. Click the link below in the show notes. I look forward to seeing you there, and I look forward to seeing you at the next Lioness Sound Bite. Cheers.